Y'all let me know if you can hear. Somebody put a 1 in the chat if you can hear.
Good morning. Appreciate everybody here. Take your seats. We'll get this meeting started. I'm Spencer Dalton, Director of the Pickens District, Seat 4 for Blue Ridge Electric. It is my privilege to call this meeting to order. Tuesday, February 18th, here at 10 o'clock. I would ask that we all stand, and while we'll do the prayer, ask Terry Brown to go open the prayer for us. We'll remain standing until Michael Sams comes up for us to lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this place of meeting and all these members that have come to do the business of Blue Ridge Electric Cooperative. We thank you for each one of them. We ask your blessings upon them. And Father, we ask your blessings as well on those that have part on the program today. Guide and direct them. And we'll give you thanks for all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Terry. Please remain standing as Michael Sams is coming up to help us do the pledge. Here comes Michael. Thank you, Michael. Let us pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. I will appoint Whit Walker as president, Jim Lovegood to chair this district meeting at this time.
Thank you, Spencer. Let me go ahead and add my welcome to that of Mr. Dalton. We certainly appreciate you folks being here today and being part of this district meeting for nominating the next Seat 4 nomination. So before we do that, I want to take just a second and recognize a couple of groups that are very important to me and I think very important to you. The first group would be our employees. Not all of our employees are here this morning, but quite a few of them are, and they're kind of surrounding the back of the room. So just let me thank these folks. These folks do a fantastic job. If you look back at what happened during Helene, look at what happened this past weekend. We had a lot of wind and some damage caused by the wind this past weekend. And then, of course, we're watching a winter storm possibly tomorrow. So anyway, can't thank those folks enough for what they do, what they mean to this organization. The other group I want to recognize is our board of directors. Again, this is a group that does a lot for us organization. And I just want to take a moment and thank them as well. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask our attorney, Mr. John Tinkin, to come forward and conduct the nominating process. I'm going to ask Angie Hester to serve as our recording secretary.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, everybody. The process is outlined in the bylaws of the organization. So the first thing I'd like to do is make sure everybody's on the same page as to what the requirements are for running for a trustee seat to the Blue Ridge Electric Board. The bylaws outline certain specific requirements, which if you allow me, I will read right now. It says no person shall be eligible to become a trustee unless that person is a member of the cooperative for at least 2 years. He must be a member for 2 years and a bona fide resident of the particular district in which he or she is to represent. That person cannot be in any way employed by or hold a financial interest in a competing energy enterprise, a business selling electric power to the cooperative, or a business that's primarily engaged in the sale of electric appliances, fixtures, or supplies to members of the cooperative, or has been employed by the cooperative as an employee, or holds any public office which is popularly elected, or has been convicted of in a crime in state and federal court, punishable by more than 1 year and not having had that person's civil rights restored by pardon or by amnesty, or has a close family member who is a relative who is a regular employee. In other words, you can't have any really close family members who are employees, or has been party to a legal action involving the cooperative or other affiliated cooperative organizations in a court of law within the last 36 months preceding this meeting, or who has a direct business relationship with the cooperative that is distinct from or in addition to the trustees' cooperative membership. And finally, the bylaws add a requirement that the candidate must be a member in good standing and have no delinquencies on the bill for the last 12 months prior to this meeting. Any questions regarding those mandatory bylaw requirements for participation as a trustee? All right, hearing none, I would like to mention to you that only registered members of this district, of course, will be allowed to vote. The highest number of votes will determine, that the candidate receives will determine the order of appearance on the ballot. Finally, I guess that's pretty much all the requirements I think that I've got. There is a requirement, though, that if you are a person who is running for office as a trustee, you must receive 20% of the votes cast in order to have an appearance on the ballot. Okay, with that requirement, I think we're ready now to open up the floor for nominations. Do I have any nominations for District 4?
I nominate Joel Spencer Dalton Jr.
All right, Mr. Dalton. Second, we have a second, all right. Any other nominations from the floor? All right, well, hearing none, then I'm gonna ask, it would short circuit the voting requirement. I'm gonna ask simply that I get a motion that we declare Spencer Dalton the nominee for District 4, and that the nominations be closed and that he be elected by acclamation. I'd like a motion to that. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Well, congratulations, Mr. Dalton, as a nominee for this district.
Congratulations, Spencer.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a short presentation. I want to share some information with you this morning on several different subjects, kind of looking back at 2024 and kind of an overview of the year because it was quite an interesting year. First of all, I'll hit a few highlights for you. We added 1,292 new meters in 2024. And that's good growth. That's growth that we're excited to get, but we were kind of on a record pace until we hit September. And if you may remember, at the end of September, we had a little hurricane come through here. And it really kind of stalled a lot of things. So we didn't see a whole lot of growth the last quarter, but we did end up adding 1,292 new meters. That brings to a total at the end of 2024 of 73,376 members. So again, we're one of the larger co-ops in the state in that regard, and so we continue to see a lot of growth there. One of the projects we're really proud of that we were still involved in 2024 and hope to wrap up sometime this year is this 9.5 new miles of transmission. It's over in Oconee County. It's something we've been working on now for about the last 2.5, 3 years. It will help allow us to loop feed several of our substations in Oconee. And we're also building it at a new higher voltage, which is much more reliable. So that's a project we're looking forward to finishing. Kind of tied to that project was some substation rebuilds in that same area. Again, we increased the voltage there, the amount of voltage, the size of the transmission line, went from 44 kV to 100 kV. So we had to also upgrade our substations to accept that voltage. Okay, I will take a moment to talk about Hurricane Helene. It certainly was a big event around here. My guess is it was a big event for most of you too. It was easily the worst storm in our 84-year history. Now, prior to the Helene, the worst storm we had ever had was back in 2005, which was an ice storm, snowstorm combination. And at that time, we had about 300, not quite 300 broke poles, and about, 44 or so thousand of our members were out at that stage. When you look at the numbers here, it was a 14-day restoration effort. We had about 98% of our members on by the 12th day, but we did have a section of it going into Rocky Bottom and took a couple extra days. We had to completely rebuild from scratch about 3 miles of power line up there. So it took 14 days. 144 of our circuits were completely down. I don't think it's up on the screen. We had 15 transmission line feeds that were out. 1,020 broke poles. That's 3 times more than we've ever had in our history at any one time. And that's a big deal. And we had 64, almost 65,000 of our members without power when the storm rolled out here on that Friday morning. So again, an incredible effort by our folks to get it back on. We brought in armies of people. We had to go as far as Minnesota, Indiana, South Dakota, and a lot of states way beyond where we normally go to get help because of the size of the storm and the path the storm took and the amount of damage that was done throughout the southeast. Got just a few pictures. Of course, we have hundreds of pictures. We can show you pictures all day long. You probably could show me pictures. But clearly, it was a devastating storm, unprecedented. I've used that word a lot when it comes to this storm. Okay, I want to give you a quick update on a project we're continuing to work on. It's our upcountry fiber high-speed internet project. So going back to 2020, in late 2020, Blue Ridge Electric and West Carolina Telephone actually formed a partnership, and we created then Upcountry Fiber. We started our first project in 2021, and so we're starting our 4th year of construction. So for 2024, we built an additional 480 miles of fiber. That gives us a total of over 3,300 miles at this point in time, which is a lot of fiber. We've connected over 22,000 customers so far, and we still have about another third of the system yet to build. When we started the project, we thought it would take us about 5 years to do it. We're in our 4th year. We're slightly ahead of schedule. This is one of those life-changing, game-changing projects. One we're very proud of, and I hope you have had the opportunity to connect to it. This is just a map to give you some idea of just what we've done with the fiber project. The green, of course, means areas that are already active or connected. The other colors you see up there, the grays and the browns, are various stages of construction or engineering. So again, it's continuing to go well. We're very proud of the project, and we think we'll be done probably slightly ahead of schedule. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about today is our new rate structure. We call it the empowerment rate. That's a term we came up with, and I want to give you a few points about why we did all this. Okay, so obviously change is not something we like. Most people don't like change. We don't like change either. It's something we felt we had to do given the conditions that were going on in the industry. We're in this thing together. When it's all said and done, we live in this area. I was born and raised in Pickens. I'm a Blue Ridge customer, and so I deal with exactly the same thing you deal with. We also serve an area that nobody else would serve. So we've had a lot of growth over the last several years. A lot of people that move into the area that don't necessarily know who we are, what we're about. So I thought it would be a good point to remind people that we were created to serve areas that nobody else would serve. That's what we did 84 years ago. I talked about the fiber project just a little bit. Same thing kind of happened there. When it came to the fiber project, I mean, we kept waiting on somebody else to go do that, and they would not. So we ultimately went out and started providing high-speed internet service in those areas. Well, that happened 84 years ago for us too, as an electric utility. Back in the day, if you lived outside of the city limits lines, you really didn't have much of an option for power. No, the investor-owned utilities generally would not go out and serve those areas. That was true here in South Carolina, true throughout the country. About 90% of the land area did not have access to electricity. We do not generate our own power. We never have. It's a very expensive proposition. We buy all of our power from a power aggregator, and there's 19 electric co-ops in our state, so we're one of 19. All of us together collectively belong to the one power aggregator, and they do all of our wholesale power purchases. So we started looking at this rate 5 years ago. This is a rate that's been out there in our state and throughout the country, being used a little bit at a time. And we started paying a lot of attention to it, realizing that the electric utility industry was changing, and changing very quickly. So we started studying the rate. We bring in consultants to help us with the rate. We started looking at other folks that are using this rate, and it started to make a lot of sense to us. Right now, we're one of 5 co-ops in our state that are on this rate structure. There's a lot of additional co-ops in our state that are looking at this rate, studying this rate, and making plans to move to the rate. And there's also a lot of co-ops throughout the country that are actually already on this rate and looking to move to this rate in the future. We started trying to educate our membership back in May of last year. We sent out letters, we put articles in Living Inside kind of magazine, we've been on the website, we've done a lot of things trying to prepare people for the concept this rate was going to bring. So why did we actually change the structure and move to this one-part rate structure? Well, it starts with escalating power costs. I mean, power costs are going up, folks. I don't like that any better than y'all do. There's not much we can do about that part. Wholesale power costs are changing, and they're changing quickly. So we've seen rate increases from Duke Energy and from Santee Cooper. There are two, we actually get our power from those two folks, as well as the Southeastern Power Administration. That's the three main components of who provides electricity to us on a wholesale basis. It's a blended effort, and again, we go through a power aggregator to do it. Those contracts have been in place long before I was CEO. They'll be in place long after I'm gone. There's also some additional charges that are being passed on to us from Santee Cooper. Now, I know Santee Cooper is in the lower part of the state. I understand that not everybody pays that much attention to what takes place down there if you live up in this part of the state. But if you would Google or look at VC Summer Nuclear, I think you would find a lot of very interesting reading there. And that's a failed nuclear project that took place started back in 2012. I think they pulled the plug on that project around 2017. It was an effort between Santee Cooper and then SCE&G. They partnered together to try to build these 2 nuclear plants, or nuclear reactors, that did not get finished. So about 2017, they pulled the plug. Collectively together, those 2 companies spent about $8 billion for that construction that never got completed. About $3.7 million of that is what Santee Cooper is responsible for. You may remember SCE&G got sold out, primarily because of this project. Now Dominion Energy owns them. Santee Cooper, which is state-owned, so the state of South Carolina owns it, did not get sold. There were a lot of people looking possibly to buy it. That did not happen. So anyway, that $3.7 billion is now being passed on to all of us. That's part of this. There's also a lack of supply in our state, in our region of the country, and really kind of throughout the whole country as a whole. There's not been a whole lot of new generation built to supply the energy needs and the demand continues to go up. So anytime you have a lack of supply and a high demand, prices go up. Just look at the price of eggs. I can't go to the grocery store and hardly find them, and when I do, I pay a lot for them. Same thing's happening here. If you look at how the structure we're using now, this is exactly how we've always been built, really since the beginning of time. But what's changed is the supply-demand issue, the escalating costs, and I'll get a little bit more into that in just a second as to why this makes more sense for us now. This new rate structure, quite frankly, helps us reduce the chance of raising prices or raising them as fast. Because prices are going up. Again, I don't like that any more than you like that. Duke has it.
Where do they get their power?
Duke?
Combined utility does.
I'm sorry?
Combined utility, where do they get their power?
I buy it through PMPA. I don't know who supplies that to them.
A little bit of Duke, I know.
I mean, I think Duke's a part of that, but I don't know if they'll say use it as a plan. So anyway, the rate structure we put in place should not go up as fast as the traditional two-tart rate structure that we have been using in the past. And hopefully, by controlling the peak times, that gives us a little bit better challenge, a little bit more hope of not having to see prices rise quite as fast as they have been. All right, so here's some facts for you. You go back 20 years, back in 2004, our peak demand at that time accounted for about 5% of our overall bill. Because there was a lot of capacity back in that day. There was no challenges with supply, so therefore it didn't make up much of our power bill at that point in time. Fast forward here to 2024, 57% of our bill today is tied to the peak charge or the peak demand. When you look at the projections, they get worse. As this thing continues to go, with things moving as they are, right now we expect projections to say that our bill could be as much as 70% of our peak charge going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. We've reached a stage now where when you use your power is way more important than how much power you use. I know that's a different concept to grasp, but it is a fact. All right, so why is this such a big deal? During your peak hours, people who generate power are having to run at full capacity. Everything they got. They use more energy, puts more strain on the system, more wear and tear, more maintenance and everything. That's part of the cost. But in many cases, they're still not able to fulfill their obligations for the demand at that time frame. So they go out on the open market and buy additional blocks of power and bring in, and they're paying a premium to do that during those time frames. Okay, so 68% of the members for Blue Ridge saw their bill stay the same or a slight decrease compared to what they would have paid on the old rate structure. That's a fact.
Tell me why you don't have 69.
69? I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're asking.
That's what the,
I mean, they don't have 69. They can do anything they want to from 69.
They generate their own power. They do have some of those
Well, that don't
rates.
make no difference. They're cheaper right now than they ever have been.
Well, I don't have any control over you.
Tell us about the election. No, I tell you what we need to do. We need to clean house like Trump there. We need to clean
All right.
the swamp.
I'll remind you, we had a very cold January. Coldest January in the history of our country. The last 25 years. Hold on. I'm the chairman of the meeting. We're talking order at this point in time.
That's what I say.
KW versus KWH. Our bill is the most transparent it's ever been. That's the way this bill is designed. You clearly see what you use and how it operates.
I don't understand my bill.
Well, we have people who will be glad to sit down and spend some time talking to you about it, because that's what we want to do. Just make sure you do understand it. Under the old rate structure, your kilowatt hour charge was almost 16 cents per kWh. We reduced, under the new rate structure, that was reduced by over a third actually. Went from 16 cents down to just slightly less than 10. And then we added, implemented the time of use rate, which we measure in KW.
That's plus, not in addition, that's in addition to, you're talking a regular kilovolt,
Yeah, so there's two.
regular charge rate, and then you're tacking on the $13 a kilowatt hour used in peak time.
That's correct.
Why are you doing that?
Because that's how we're billed, and that's the only way for us to charge going forward. It gives people a fair
So you're
chance.
charging us for the same amount of electricity twice?
No,
It's always.
no, we're not.
You got meters out there too.
So here's some more information for you. KWH, for your reference, is the amount of energy used in a specific time. We think of it like the odometer reading in a car. It's the number of miles you drove equates somewhat to what KWH is. The amount of energy being used. KW is the peak amount of electricity being used at any one moment. Much like the speedometer in your car. You're going 80 miles an hour, that's the maximum moment you hit during that time frame. So here's some things we have in place that we hope will help. First of all, we have something we introduced called peak forgiveness. And in any 12-month period, you have a chance to reduce your peak by 50%, and we'll reimburse you for that. We have always had budget and levelized billing. That's a concept that's been out there for a long time. We still have it. If you're looking for a way to kind of keep your bill more accurate or more levelized through from month to month, this is some way to do it. The programmable thermostat's a big deal in this rate structure. And it allows you, we have a rebate program for that. For those people who are willing to do it, there's ways to use the thermostat. It makes a lot of sense. We have heat pump and water heater rebates. It's one of the bigger users of electricity in your home. A new water heater or a new heat pump can go a long way in helping reduce some of your costs. We have heat pump loans. So we'll loan you money for a new heat pump. We have an energy consultation, folks, that will come out and meet with you individually, look at your home, look at all the things you deal with, and see where and what we can do to help you use less energy. It's amazing how many times we come out and we find some major issue with some appliance or heating system or cooling system that can change the way your bill looks. And finally, we still have the old two-part rate, or a very similar facsimile to that. So if you really just want to go back to the two-part rate, that is an option. Now, it doesn't make sense for most people. I'll tell you that now. That rate will go up faster than our current rates, than the rate structure you're on. That is an option. So once again, you have some choices. Okay. That's the information we wanted to share with you this morning. Now, is there any questions? Okay, yes, ma'am.
I recently came into your facility to get explanation on my bill. I didn't understand what you guys were doing. The paper you originally sent out was really vague on how you were actually breaking down the bills for us to understand. So I felt your office was very dismissive of me when I came in to talk to them. However, I did call your 800 number. And whoever Blythe is, she's amazing to talk to and very, very helpful. But is there any way you can restructure the look of your bill to say, okay, great, my peak time was January 4th and I used X amount of wattage and put that on there and have my dollar breakdown. The remaining kilowatts, this is what they were, and this is what you're charging me at 10.9 cents a kilowatt. And then my remaining days per month times $1.10 is this, to have a more understandable bill, opposed to just saying, this is kilowatts, this was the day that you had your highest, so that we can greater understand our bills.
Okay, so I guess first things first, I apologize if you didn't feel like we did a good job when you walked in. And I'm glad Blythe was able to help me. I mean, we made a lot of efforts to educate folks, but it's not an easy thing to do. It's a difficult subject to try to explain, because it is complicated. As far as the look of the bill, we do have some options there. We've redesigned it several times. So what some of the things you're talking about, we can certainly take a look at and see what can be done to make it look some better.
If you can make it more simplistic, to make it look like a math formula. This times this equals this, adds down to your total bill.
Okay, I'm looking at people shaking their heads, so we'll definitely take a look at it, so we can do it. Yes, sir.
And along the same line with Madam right here, you know, I get an alert every day from y'all that tells us our usage, but I get a total alert. And now us being retired, we're in a different boat than young folks working, several kids, and we can manage our power a little better, and we understand how to manage the power to help make this rate work the best we can. But the thing on where I get this alert, it just tells me I used a total of, yesterday I think it was 25 kilowatt hours. And that's good information. I've used that for a long, since we've been here, since 2019, I've used that. And that helps us understand what we're using on a daily. But what I don't get is, what did I use from 6 to 9? And then what am I going to be using from 3 to 6 when we go into the summer, which is going to affect us personally more because of hot weather than the morning stuff does right now. But if I could see that number instead of waiting until I seen, and I'll be on January, we went from, in December, we were 11 point some of the high demand hours and dropped to 7 point something, which was on our bill. But if I can see daily what I'm using, you know, we had our grandgirls over for the weekend, and one gets up early, and the TV played from 6 to 9, which it does. Basically, that was $13 because that was your high rate, about a third of kilowatt hour per hour on that. So roughly. But my thing is like if that app, if people use it, or if I can see it, and I think that's kind of what she's talking about, her bill, but if I can see what I'm doing at that particular, without adding, there's things I can add to my system that I can see some of this. But if you could see that, but I don't want to have to buy something to do that, but if I could see more of what we're doing, then I think that's an option on just that little alert, if we can see the differences of what we're doing, so we can understand.
Sure. Now you're using
A
the app.
snippet in time that we can see that.
But your alert comes on your app.
It's just a phone alert. I get a text message every day that you can opt in on it, that you'll send me out and tell me daily what I've used.
We can help you with the app. See that?
There's an app. Our app has a lot of information.
Well,
on
I've seen a lot on the app,
Yeah.
as well, but, okay, thank you, Doug.
We'll be glad to get with anybody after the meeting
Right.
and help you out here.
I'm also the $13, I kind of like to know where that came from. That's a big bite at one time for us folks, even though I see your education, and I think folks feel like that's a big bite, even though we're saving on the other end, and when you average it out, it might not be as bad as we think it is, but I think that $13 is what's hard to grasp.
You know, we actually pay almost $19 for it.
Yeah.
So we're actually charging you less.
Oh, I understand that. I understand that in your structure now, you explained it, that y'all pay, your suppliers an on-demand rate plus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My concern is more
less on the rates and more on the reality of the situation. My in-laws are 85 and 83 years old, and they live in a 100-year-old house and have had, double and triple bills, and the way that they're responding to it, they've got a programmable thermostat.
Right.
And so they turn their heat off from 6 to 9 a.m., and a lot of times they wake up in a house that's less than 50 degrees, and somebody's gonna get hurt.
Well, once again, I'll remind you, they have the 2-part rate that does not take into account that peak charge that's available to them. And all they have to do is call in and ask about it, talk about it, and we'll be glad to put them on. Again, I don't know that it's better. In most cases, it's not better. But that's just, there's really the only 2 options that you have out there. At this point in time, we have a power bill too, and we obviously have to pay that.
Has there been any thought when you get into adding an age adjustment to
No, we haven't talked about that. A lot of people seem to want to bring that up. I've got some elderly parents and grandparents, in-laws, and aunts and uncles and that kind of thing, and they're all dealing with this actually better than I thought they would, and they're actually saving money on it, so therefore they like it.
Are they turning their power off too?
They're turning it off. They're just smart when they use it. Yes, sir.
I don't understand it. I
Okay.
got 2 meters, and you customers are $22, and mine's almost $75. Why can't you get that? Are our meters made out of gold or what?
I have no way to compare it to us.
I ain't comparing meters and meters and meters and meters, sir. I don't care what they are, meters or meters.
It's all bet on what power you use and how you use it.
I don't know why our meter is so much higher than anybody else.
He's talking about the account charge, $34 to have the meter.
$34.
Well, it's all about, it's more than just the meters. That's designed to cover some of the costs of the facilities. And that number keeps going up too. So that's the building of the facilities and maintaining the facilities. That all 7,500 miles of power line that we have, it has to be repaired. Yes, ma'am.
I think what he's saying is, if all the other electric companies can do it for $11, why does this one have to charge $34?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes.
And that's a valid question.
Well, okay, so everything we do is built around the economics of this organization. We're a very rural system. So we have about 7,500 miles of power line. We have about 9 meters per mile of power line. Versus an investor-owned utility like Duke, who has about 40 to 50 meters per mile of line. Big difference in the amount of revenue they bring in for that same basic investment. We talk about return on investment. That's why they chose not to go out into the rural areas and provide service. So that's the only reason I can give you.
This man right here got a question.
Yes.
I have 2 meters.
Okay.
My peak on my bill is not on the same dates. I'm served by the same transformer, same power line. One peak day is on the 24th. One peak day is on the 15th. Why would the peak rate not be the same day?
You got 2 different meters, correct?
I have 2 different meters.
You do different things at different times, and I guess on those meters. Is that correct? It's when you use the most power.
One meter I do not use any time, well, I won't say any time, but I did not use during the last billing cycle any in the mornings. I don't get up till 8 or 9, 7 or 8 o'clock.
Right.
I don't get out till, and it's just a utility or storage building that I go into later in the day. But the thing is, it's a different date.
Yeah, it depends on how you use your energy. So each meter will record its own peak individually by the usage that it sees. So if one's a house and one's a shop or something, if you're doing something in the shop at a different time, it's not going to record the same peak as what would be in the house. Does that make sense? Each meter is its own individual thing.
I understand what you're saying,
Right.
but, you know, it doesn't ring has to be consistent with me. You know, and that's just.
Well, I mean, every home, every meter, we look at things as meters. That's how we do that. If you're either a building or a house or a shop or a barn or a gate or something, there's completely different kinds of patterns of usage that's taking place. So that peak is built around the usage of that specific thing that's going on in your house or your shop or your building. So they're never going to like it line up.
But I guess the point that I'm making is that the shop or building, that I'm talking about, it's, you know, a minimum charge.
Yes.
Is not being used in the peak hours. At present time. But it still has a peak charge on it.
Even if you use all the stuff, it'll be a fee.
That's going to come out.
Yeah, we'd be better to look at yours individually, if that's okay. We get one of our folks, that when you're done, we take a look at each individual meter, and maybe we can help you figure that out.
I want you to look at it, it might fix it, make it go up.
Yes, sir.
Why did Blue Ridge choose to, understanding that they charge more to you for peak power time?
Right.
Why did they choose to hit people with a $13 stick rather than just charge more for the power used during that time, or to take an average of those $90 a month, rather than picking 1 hour? Somebody may have left an appliance on and they get nailed because they had done that 1 hour. Why not take an average for all those hours?
So that's how the rate was.
Why not just raise the rate from 10, 24, 4 to 15 or whatever it takes to pay your charges during that time?
So that's basically how it's been done for the last. The reason we chose not to do that because people, when you use your power, matters now, but it's going to matter more going forward. We're trying to get on a rate structure that lines up how we're built so that people who want to have an option can actually save some money during this time. Some people actually like this rate. Matter of fact, a lot of people like this rate. And are saving money. So rather than averaging all together, that's your choice to split it up.
Your option, you have it. I looked it up. Your option to go back to the other set
Right.
standard rate is $50 a month rather than $33 a month.
That's correct.
And it's 15 point something, it's 50%, almost 50% more for power all the time. So that's not a very good option for somebody who doesn't want to use this as power.
And I agree. It's not.
It seems like you don't really want to fix any issue to your side, all the question.
Well, I'm not sure what we got to fix it, because once again, we have a power bill.
You might have a board of smart people out there that can come up with a better solution that better serves the community.
Well, we think this
Tell
rate
me you guys
does.
make over $1 million a year, your board makes over $1 million a year, and this is the only solution you can come up with.
My board is not making $1 million.
I got your tax things right here, buddy. Not over $1 million, so your cost is not like $481,126 with your other compensations, $105,501. That's just you. And then you've got
But I'm not on the
some
board.
that add up more than $1 million. I'm sorry, your CEO, it feels like you have non-profit, not really. Hey, I'll write a petition here for 3,000 of your members that I want you to look at a better solution. I'd like to give it to your attorney, not you, because
Sure.
you seem like.
I don't want to get a problem with y'all in the mouth already, but y'all know what we're paying.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
Last 2 months, I've been home 1 week each of those 2 months. Cutting off everything in my breaker off except for my heat and my light. And my bill was still almost $400. How?
Pay your salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know now.
At the end of the
That makes
day,
no sense.
well, I no way for me to look at, know what your heating and cooling loads are. Not looking at your set.
Well, it does this every year, even in the past when I was there for months. or only 2 weeks out of the month, right, it was $460 last year. This makes no sense. I've asked y'all to look at my meter, everything's fine, but it's the same every year, at this time of year. Even when we've had warm winters, it does that.
Certainly, you can come and take a look at it again.
But what is that gonna fix all the money I've already spent?
Well, we continue to try to help you, all we want to do.
And here's another, possible problem. If you wanna do this peak stuff so much, invent a meter that slows our dang tire down during peak hours. And it can be done, I'm an engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm quoting from your website where it says, in the past, members who wanted to save monthly on their bill could use less energy or invest in home upgrades to improve their home's energy efficiency. Now, members will have a simpler way to access savings without reducing their overall energy usage or making any major purchases. By changing this rate to the peak hours of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the fall, and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the summer, you are not giving people any choice at all. Those are the times when people are getting up, getting ready to go to work, getting their kids off to school. They have to take showers, dry their hair, cook their breakfast. When they come home in the afternoon, kids have to do their schoolwork. Mom has to start dinner, or dad, or whoever. You have instituted draconian measures to recoup the money that you're saying that is costing Blue Ridge extra for the power. You have never come up with a middle-of-the-road solution by asking people, hey, we're in a bind here. Please try to use less energy. We'll monitor people's bills for a few months and see if that helps us.
Well, we've gone through a lot of voluntary programs over the years, trying to get people to use less during those peak hours. But we don't set the peak hours. It's not us.
Somebody did.
That's the system. It wasn't peak hours. Peak hours are directed by the people who use their energy, not us.
Do you realize the hardship that this is causing families, older people, to come up with a $13 kilowatt hour rate?
But if you forget your paycheck,
I mean, there's been times when just that 1 hour has added $60 to our bill.
And it does the same thing there here at Blue Ridge. So if you check that time here. I'll take a couple more questions and we'll slow down. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Sanders.
My question is to you and the board members, who holds you as management accountable to ensure that the funds are managed in a way that best interests your customers?
We have a board of directors that does exactly that.
The board of directors, they're the ones who make sure everything is on the up and up, I should say.
Yes, ma'am.
That, so perhaps there needs to be an oversight committee. That's not been.
It's called the board of directors. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You can take a couple back here.
So, I'm a father of 2 young girls. We live in a very small house. I got my bill from December to January. We were all 4 sick, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and maybe the day after. We postponed Christmas until that Friday. We were in bed between 7 and 8 o'clock that morning. But yet your bill says that we used almost 7 kilowatts, and y'all charged us $89 for that hour, when it was probably just our heat running.
It's typically what drives most of this heat.
Why wasn't it between 6 and 9 when it was probably colder?
and we have an adjustable AC and heat. We
Yeah.
do have that.
We have a thermostat.
And we turn it down, and we also got propane and charged us $700 to get propane to keep our heat down so that this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, we
So
got
now
it.
we have a heat bill on top of another heat
smarter. The older folks you have, your family, your in-laws, your parents, they must, how do I use it smarter? When it's just my heat running for my two little girls. Because I can fill it up. I can put it jackets, pants, socks. What's on two little girls? Like, this does not make sense. This doesn't make sense. And I'm a contractor. Now, my bill's so high, I got 2 meters, by the way. And for both my meters, it's over $500 a month now. So, one's a shed.
Right.
But now I'm looking, y'all raised the bill for us so high, I'm looking at solar now. It's gonna cost me $30,000 or $40,000 to put solar in my house. But guess what? That monthly payment's gonna be cheaper than y'all's light bill. And I'll own the system in 10 years. So how does this make sense? When it's cheaper to go solar now than it is to be hooked up for your house. I mean, I'm just asking you because you're the top man, right? You're CEO.
Obviously, I'll take solar as a hot chip. You can do the math,
No, we're going off grid. We're not going to be sharing it. So I'm just trying to get an answer. How do I say to y'all? We've been with y'all for so long, but it's cheaper to go solar off grid. And it wasn't a couple years ago or before the peak hours.
Without looking at your specific information, we have people over here and you sit down back in the meeting, look at specific situations, hopefully we'll figure out what's going on.
I get what you're saying individually, but gentlemen here, gentlemen there, we're having similar issues, so it's not just individualized.
Well,
all of us are having similar problems.
Again, that individual situation is unique.
And I'm not just making fun.
There's not one blanket answer for any of it.
Most of the people in here have the same issue.
I will do it too.
I've got a question too. I mean, I just want to ask everybody else too. I had to look on Facebook to figure out this meeting. This was not on my bill. This was not on the last 2 magazines. I read both magazines. If you would have put that meeting on here, you would have found the other percentage of people who are not happy about their bill.
10 in the morning rather than 6 at night.
When everybody else was working.
When we have a ditch management, there should have been a notice bill to anybody who's in that district to come to this meeting. We're gonna go ahead and cut it off. So the meeting is officially adjourned. We're going to go ahead and do PowerPoints now. For those who want to go back, we'll be glad to sit on top of you individually.
I got a question. You ignored me in the back. No, I want to talk in front of all the crowd.
Amen.
No, it's not adjourned. I'm a customer. I'm a Blue Ridge customer. I can talk.
We're all members.
No, you just be quiet. The problem is we did everything that you said your customer service said to do. They said to sit there and cut off your major appliances. We did that. We cut our power down to 65. Our power bill has doubled. Has doubled.
Don't worry, nobody's not going to hurt you.
I'm not going to hurt you. I want to be violent. I'm just here to put our things together. You're not going to allow it here. You see how it's together. But I'm just saying, our peak power, the supposedly 3 maximum hours, is half or almost half or over half of what our regular monthly bill is. Yeah, but it shouldn't be 3 hours. Our regular bill is $280, or our other ones, the 3 hours is $150.
Thanks everybody for coming today. We have member services reps here to speak with anybody who would like to, and we are available for you. So please stick around if you have questions. We're happy to talk with you today. We're happy to talk to you over the phone. We're happy to provide you with a consultation. Thank you for coming out.
They ain't gonna get me. I ain't gonna
I
get
know.
me.
I just with the amount of people we got